Hi everyone! So second video review for this week is for Create a Life to Love by Erin Zak. If you want to check out my Goodreads review, I did just post that the other day. So if you're on YouTube, there's a link in the description below, and if you are on Facebook or on my blog, then there is a link within the post. And this is the video review. So Create a Life to Love by Erin Zak. Definitely a story to love. There's no other way to describe this. It's a story basically of Jackie Mitchell, and she gets the shock of her life when a baby that she gave up 16 years ago turns up on her doorstep. And her daughter Beth, she's really clever, she's really smart, and she has a lovely creative streak as well, which Jackie obviously doesn't want to get wrapped up in being part of this kid's life, but because she's turned up and she's taken her home where she's met her mum, her adoptive mother, Susan, Jackie is trying to ignore that bit of attraction, that spark that happened between her and Susan that she can't quite define. And there's just this feeling between them, something she really can't put her finger on. So when they kind of turn up on her doorstep, and they've invaded her personal space, she's finding it increasingly difficult to keep a lid on her attraction to Susan. And it's not just Jackie's story. I think that's the most important part. You are introduced to Jackie and Beth from the very beginning, and so therefore you think a lot of it is going to be Jackie's perspective, but there was something familiar and comforting about certain parts of this wonderful story. I think if any of you have read it, you might know what I mean if you know where I'm coming from with some of the premise of the plot. But I think it was just a really wonderful story, and it was truly a story that you could delve into and easily fall into reading without realizing how much of it you'd read. And it moves quite fluidly over a period of time as well, so you're not really aware of those jumps in time that happen throughout it. It's not very big jumps in time, but they do happen, and it's so fluid that you're not thinking about it as the reader. You just realize that time has moved on, things have happened in between. And for me, I loved the fact that Susan, Jackie and Beth were all adjusting to this life they had to create to work for them. So you know, those unexpected events that happened, Beth turning up and then Susan and Beth ending up at Jackie's, meant that it really drove the story forward, with them having to sort of deal with disrupted lives. They've been set in their way. It shook up the normal, and it gave the story lots of vibrance. It made it really full of life, that a normality had been shaken up in such a way that you were learning to create a new normal, which is really quite relevant at the moment. And I think I loved that we got the perspective in this story from all three main characters too. So for most chapters you got the perspective of Jackie, Beth and Susan, so you were getting very different aspects of it, very different views, and you were getting to know each character because you were getting good insight into their thought process, their actions, reasons for doing things, and they were very much talking to you as the reader about their choices and thoughts, and I loved that. It was very interactive in that sense, and you really did get two romances for the price of one in this one as well, because you've got Jackie and Susan, and then you've got Beth, who is also finding her own way in life. So it gave extra depth, and it really helped to build that connection to the circumstances and the personal effects on each of the characters, to be getting their own view, their own story. And it was just the fact that this had a really artsy element. It was really creative and arty, and the connection with Jackie's life and career was extremely clever as well. I really enjoyed every moment. It's one of those stories that if you like romance, you're just going to absolutely love this. I just think, I really hope we get to see more from these characters in future, because I think for Susan and Jackie, their relationship's so new, I'd love to see more. And then for Beth, I'd like to see her have her own story, because there's so much element there to explore. She's quite young in this. I know 16 is still a child, and she's really learning about life in the hardest way, and so I think it'd be great to see her somewhere down the line. I guess that's inspiration for a future story. And I loved Beth's creative artistic side. I loved how she was really important in this story. Really, in some ways, without Beth there would be no story, so she's a vital character. You really need her. And I think if Erin had chosen any other narrative for this story, it perhaps wouldn't have worked as well, because you needed that questioning. You needed those characters questioning themselves and expressing views to you as a reader, to make you really gain a full perspective of what had happened in their pasts and what was now developing and now what was happening. If it had just been third person narrative, it perhaps wouldn't have worked so well, because you would have had set scenes. And this was great because it meant that Erin could move around. It meant she could have you know, characters looking back on their own past, their own choices, their own reflection on the actions of others and what had happened and what had got them to this point. But I just think their whole connection, their whole family buzz and everything, like I say, it was completely vibrant. It was really bright. It was really colourful, even though some of what surrounds this premise of this story is quite dark and quite sensitive as well. It just was such a lovely, vibrant story, and it wasn't what I expected it to be. I ended up loving it so much more than I thought I was going to, because I thought, oh, this is going to be arty and it's going to be mum meets mum and they live happily ever after, and there's a lot of depth and things to overcome in there as well. It's not as simple as Beth gets the dream of her two mums falling in love. It's just completely different. And I loved it. I really did think it was very, very good. And as I say, if you're a romance lover, you will absolutely love this. It ticks all the boxes for a great romance. It has depth, it has drama, it has angst, it has people creating difficult situations. It has everything, and it was so good. I really, really loved it. So I'll pop a link in the description so you can go and grab a copy of Create a Life to Love by Erin Zak. If you've read Create a Life to Love, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. I'd love to know what you thought of the way the story was structured and the narrative and the characters, the plot, everything. It would be great to hear your thoughts on it. I really think it had a nice moral to it. Create a Life to Love. It's really something that you can connect with and engage yourself with as well, and give you pause for thought. So you know, if you felt that, it'd be great to know what you thought of the book. If you haven't read it yet but you're planning to read it, it's on your to be read list, or you're interested in reading it, or you're going to grab yourself as a copy, that's also great. It would be great to hear your thoughts and know that you're going to read it. That would be awesome. So again, comment below, let us know if you're interested in reading it, and if you do read it, I really hope you do love it too. Bye.